What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Brogcast. That theme you just heard, I want to give credit to Mike Mozart with Jeepers Media. I follow him on Twitter, and he was the one who told me the song that you just heard. It's an iMovie track called Road Trip, and I've always loved this track way back when I was watching Mike Mozart with Jeepers Media. I always thought it was so catchy and so fun, and it's really upbeat. I think I'm going to keep this track as the theme for the Brogcast because it's royalty free. It's not like the other one, the Megillah Gorilla for Sale. That one is copyrighted by Boomerang, and if you want to go higher, probably, I think the guys behind TBS own it. I don't know. But anyway, point being is this song is royalty free, it's catchy, it's upbeat, and it really gets everyone warmed up for the podcast. So we had a little mishap before airing. I was doing a workout and I knocked into my microphone and it fell, and I thought, man, tonight's podcast is going to be a disaster because that XLR cable or one of the connections is probably toast. But I'm sitting here recording and the sound levels seem to be at normal, so I guess I'll find out when I'm done recording. So I have a Patreon set up for those who don't know. It'll be in the description. If you want me to answer a question on the podcast, go on that Patreon, DM me, and I will answer your question here on the podcast. So it's question time. Let's go. Where would you like to be in your career with the podcast 5 years from now? Well, same as where I'm at. I just love doing these podcasts. They're very cathartic, sort of therapeutic. I like sitting here talking to the mic. You know, it's a good feeling being on this podcast for sure. And I hope in 5 years' time I'm still doing this. Next one is, what does your ideal podcast look like? Well, I was actually going to get into this, but the last podcast that I did it in video format, and I thought about switching back to no video because there's sort of a mystique vibe to it, if you guys know what I mean, because you can't see me but you can hear me, and it kind of promotes sort of a hyper focus on the audio itself. When you have both going at the same time, it is entertaining, but I think it takes away from the podcast experience. It's sort of like listening to the radio. You just hear the voice, and it really helps you focus on the topics and on the podcast. So my ideal podcast is just this right here. Just me sitting in front of a microphone, rambling on, or answering your guys' questions. Yeah, this is where it's at right now. Next question is, when are you most satisfied with the podcast? Man, just like I said, as long as I'm in here with my new comfy chair, which by the way is amazing. I have a Neo chair now. I used to have one of those racing computer chairs, and that thing was super comfy, and it had a back massager on it. It could recline, and I loved that chair, but the thing is, I found that it was doing a number on my back. I think it's because I have it's because I'm short, and I think those chairs are meant for taller people. But now I have a Neo chair. It's got a really nice mesh frame. There's a nice cushion on it. It's in a cool baby blue color. I love it. It matches the studio perfectly, and it keeps my back in line. This reclines as well, but it's just not it's not too comfy, you know, where you just kind of sit there and slouch in it like a couch. No, not with this. This, you can sit and edit, you can sit at the computer, and it will keep your back at the perfect posture. I ended up giving my old gaming chair to my brother-in-law, and he is in love with it. Next is, has anyone criticized the podcast? No, not negatively. I'm kind of waiting on that. Everyone who has heard the Brogcast is super satisfied with it. They love it. They say that my vocal delivery is on point, and they think that I'm a natural at this. And so I have yet to hear anything negative about the Brogcast. What's most difficult about running the podcast? I'd say the most difficult part of running this podcast is keeping the levels at the right level. Just before this podcast, I turned my microphone sensitivity down just a hair because I noticed in the last podcast it was definitely over amplified and you could definitely hear some distortion going on. So I turned that down just a hair, and I'm hoping now that it sounds a lot better. So yeah, most difficult part of running this podcast is getting the right levels. There's another thing too. I got to make sure my monitor level is up all the way, because if it's not, then I don't know what's going into your guys' ears. Next is, what is the best thing about running this podcast? I kind of got into it earlier, but like I said, doing these podcasts is super relaxing, and I just like sitting in front of the mic and just going off, you know? Next one is, how do you like your steak? All right. I'm going to get a lot of hate on this. I know I will, but I like my steak medium well. Hint of pink in there, but not like completely charred and done. No, you can't eat a steak like that. But if it's mostly done and there's a hint of pink, I'm cool with medium rare. That's not too bad, but my perfect steak is medium well. Same goes with making a hamburger. I mean, you obviously have to make sure it's done, but that's kind of how I like my steak and meat in general. Next is, what is your favorite color? Green all the way, man. And more specifically, lime green. Lime green is the bee's knees, man. Sorry, I was gonna cuss, but we've got some younger ears on the podcast right now, so I'm trying not to swear. Favorite time of day? Nighttime. I am a night person through and through. In fact, right now that we're recording, it is almost 11 p.m. and this is where my brain thrives. I've kind of trained myself to become a morning person too, but if I had to pick the two, I would say nighttime, because that's just when my brain thrives. So last but not least, the last question is, what is your favorite thing to do? My favorite thing to do is drumming or making music. I have been a drummer since I was 12, and drumming is my passion. I love it. I've been doing a couple open mics here and there, and I love getting up in front of a crowd and playing. I like doing covers, and I like doing mixing and making music in general. One app that I would recommend for anybody starting out doing this stuff, there's a website called Soundtrap. It's an in-browser studio where you can make your own music, and if you pay for the premium, it is actually a really good software. You can definitely tell a difference between the songs that you make on there versus professional, but to really get the ball rolling and see if you've got what it takes to be a musician, that's a real test right there. I am not a singer. My mom will tell me that I'm a good singer till the cows come home, but I am not a good singer. I have a very monotone voice, and I have a very monotone singing voice as well. So I have to make sure that if I'm picking a song, it's gotta be in that range. Like the song that I just posted, the cover of Right Now by John Cena and the Trademark, that one is an example of the kind of music I have to do. I've kind of dabbled into Johnny Cash type songs. I don't know if you guys seen it, but there was a song that I did from the Trailer Park Boys, a cover of a song from the Trailer Park Boys, and it definitely had a Johnny Cash vibe, and I think I did pretty well on that one. At first, I thought it was complete trash, because at the end, I messed up the lyrics, but somebody commented, and they were like, this is the best cover of this song that we've ever seen, and I couldn't believe it, because I'm a perfectionist, and so I'm going to see something wrong with my cover and go, I should have done this, or I should have done that, and it's really refreshing to hear someone else's perspective on it. That's one thing too. I don't believe in shutting off comments or censoring comments on YouTube. I want people to let it fly. Now, if people are letting it fly, I'm not necessarily going to be paying attention to those, but I think come on, it's freedom of speech. If you guys want to talk mad trash about me, go for it. I really don't care. Have at it, you know. But what I was gonna say is, it's super refreshing to hear these good comments and to let me know that my stuff isn't as bad as I thought. Now, I will say that my early stuff is, it's not horrible, but they're not as good as my stuff now. My stuff now has definitely improved, and I mean, in the future, when I look back at these videos, maybe I still won't be satisfied completely, but I've definitely learned to just go with it and just make what I want to make and see where it goes, because a big part of this whole music thing, and in general, podcasting, you name it, a big part of this is just learning how to do stuff. Soundtrap, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't start using it until July of last year, and I just stumbled upon it. I can't remember why I went with Soundtrap. I think I was just looking at different like music recording software, and Soundtrap was the first to come up, and I clicked on it, and that's when I did my cover of "I Love This Bar" by Toby Keith. I had to really throw some auto tune on that one, but like I tried that out and I was like, wow, this is a really good software, and it's crazy because it's in browser. And by the way, I recommend Chrome for this, but it's all in browser, and that's really convenient because you could be bouncing off between your notes, or if you want to, if you get distracted like I do and start, doing some Facebook scrolling, it's all there in the browser. Now, one thing I will say is it does glitch, and it makes sense because it's such a big service that it does glitch out at sometimes. But if you run into that problem, 9 times out of 10, just refresh the page. I was having a lot of issues doing my cover of Right Now. I was having a lot of issues with it. You just got to make sure you refresh the page often. And another thing too, you have to name the song. You have to go in there and make a name for it. It seems to mix faster when you name the song, from my experience at least. And it also helps if you have a pretty beefy computer. I have the Dell XPS 9520, and that thing is a beast. When I first got that computer, it was very buggy, and those bugs were so stupid. But it's it you know it's because it was a new computer at the time, and I'm gonna kind of dive into this a little bit. But before I do that, yeah, make sure you have a pretty decent computer. Make sure it's got a lot of RAM. I think you need a lot of RAM to get that going. Also, you got to have a good processor too. But this is the story about when I got my Dell XPS 9520. So this was May of last year. I just got a tax return. I was ready to just go hard in the paint, and I wanted to get a new editing computer, because before that I was using my parents' computer in our computer room, and oh man, getting that thing to edit a video was a pain in the rear end because it just wasn't set up for that. And I was like, okay, I got to do something about this. If I really want to take this video editing thing seriously, if I want to take the music editing thing seriously, the mixing seriously, I got to get a good computer. So I looked around, and one of the top choices was a Dell XPS. Of course, the number one was the Apple, I don't know, I don't know. The new Apple laptop was number one, and number two was the Dell XPS 9520. So I went with that, and I ordered it. I made sure to really, really go hard in the paint on the specs. The only thing I didn't go hard in the paint on and go extreme with was the display. It had an option for a touchscreen. I was like, I don't really need that. So I got the top of the line processor, the top of the line RAM, and among a few other things. And I ordered it. And a funny thing is, I sped through the payment process, and I accidentally ordered a year of McAfee, and then a year of some other. So there was, yeah, that's right. So there was the McAfee that I paid for, and then the warranty. I didn't realize I paid for it, and that was an extra $300 that I didn't need to have. So after I ordered that, there was a bit. I think it was because of a labor shortage, but I wasn't able to get my computer until like 2 or 3 months after I ordered it, and so and I really wanted to see what this computer was like because since it was the new version of the Dell XPS, nobody made a video on it except for this one guy. There's one guy from China. He did a video on the Dell XPS 9520, and I was like, okay, cool. And it was the only video in existence of this computer. And he did a little walkthrough, and I was like, okay, this is a good computer. It was definitely well worth the wait. But when I first got this computer, there were a lot of bugs. The fingerprint scanner wouldn't work. The two Thunderbolt ports on the side wouldn't work, or would only work with certain things. And then I had another issue with the USB-C port on the right side, too. But other than that, I think that's about it for the bugs. It was kind of annoying, but I worked around it. I just had to keep updating the BIOS and the Dell updates and the Windows updates. And now it runs awesome. But one thing that did not change was how it would perform. So I would always throw it into my video editor and just pack it up. Load it with sound clips and video clips and pictures. This thing can take it, and that was one thing that it never let me down with. Was that was the main reason why I got the computer, was for its beefiness. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. It's got the I think it's the 12th gen Intel Core processor, and the OLED display, but it's not touchscreen. And this thing is a beast. I'm gonna see if I can make like a full blown movie with it, but I feel like I should probably upgrade when I do that to Premiere, even though I despise Adobe Premiere, because back when I was in college, I took a video production class, and of course they all use Macs. And there are these certain assignments I had to do, certain videos I had to put together, and so I had to put my video projects on a USB memory device. I forget what they're called. A passport, yeah. So I had to put all of my projects on a passport and work on it either at home or at my sister's house. And the issue with that was both of those computers are Windows. And my professor was trying to tell us like how to sort of edit with both of those at the same time, and it just wasn't working. On my Windows computer at home, it would always crash, and all of my projects would be gone. And then if I did it on my sister's computer, it would kind of work, but it would run really slow. And so I would be bouncing between her computer, my home computer, and the computer in class, and it just was not working. So I despise Adobe Premiere because of that, but I think with this type of computer, and since time has passed too, this was back in like 2017 when this was going on, so maybe Adobe's made some good improvements. If they have, yeah, I can make a full movie with it, but the video editor that I have, VideoPad, is not designed for big movies like that. So yeah, if I decide to make an actual movie, Adobe Premiere is where it's at. I remember when me and my friend were making a video for his class, not a video production class, but some sort of other class. He was like, "Hey, Jonathan, do you want to make this video with me?" I was like, "Sure." So I wrote down like the storyboard and stuff to try to like get this together, and it was really good. I think it was really good. It probably isn't, but I think it was some good work. It was let's see. I can't remember if I have this posted on this channel because I recently moved all my content to one channel just to make it easier for everyone. But there was a video called 1978, The Self-Indulgent Discovery of Rock and Roll. Me and my friend made this, and I think it came out really good. But the thing is, This was back when I was still using Adobe Premiere. This is probably the most irritating thing that steered me away from Adobe Premiere. So I was on my computer at home. This was back when I had my own computer aside from the computer in the computer room at home. So I was editing this video. We had it all put together, all planned out, and I put it into Adobe Premiere. And I was almost finished with it. It was getting close to midnight, so my friend was like, "Hurry up, Jonathan, like this video is about to be due. Please send it to me." And I was having a heck of a time trying to figure out why it kept crashing. It was crashing and crashing and crashing. And I was like, "You know what? I'm going to go with old reliable, and that's VideoPad." So I plugged everything in and I got it done. There were no special effects on it because Adobe Premiere is supreme when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I was like, nope, I'm using VideoPad. And guess what? VideoPad did it for me. We got the whole movie done in the nick of time, and it's one for the ages. Me and my friend, we always talk about that. I think my favorite part of that movie, if it's on this channel, is when I lay down in the grass and the camera pans to the sky and it goes into space. My best friend says all of these funny clips in space as okay, so he was portraying a rock star from space, telling him that music is a freedom of expression thing and just to keep going. And one of the clips from that is a flashback to the scene of when everyone's in church and they're talking about how music is the devil, right? And so in this clip, I put like this shake effect on the clip, and the clip was devil's music. So to put that all together, we had space rock star saying music is a freedom of expression, and it goes devil's music, and it's so funny. Which I guess now I have to explain because you guys are like, what do you mean by this? So this movie was based on the Rush 2112 album, and my best friend was having an issue trying to interpret what these lyrics meant, and so I listened to the album dozens of times, looked up the lyrics, and I was like, I know what this is about. So the 2112 song is about freedom of expression. The song is, I haven't listened to this song in quite a while, so I'm going to have to dig through the machinations of my mind to try and figure out what the song's about. So it's about freedom of expression. Basically what happens is these authoritative figures take over a planet, I think. And then there's a guy who picks up a guitar from the times before the authority figure invaded. And he starts playing this guitar. And I guess you'd call them the elders, tell him not to play it because this is what the old world people did. And this guy just kept playing. And it helped him sleep. It helped him get into dreamland. And it just benefited everyone. And so that movie is about freedom of expression. Not everyone's going to understand. Not everyone is going to approve. And there are going to be people who are going to tell you, you can't do this. But it's all about what's in your heart. And if there are many ways that people can express themselves, but yeah, I guess this is kind of a motivational speech now. So like I said, not everyone's going to approve or listen. There are people who are going to try and shoot you down, but express yourself. There's a song, express yourself, express yourself. That's, I guess that's my motivational end to this podcast. So yeah, that does it for this episode of the Brogcast. We're gonna send you out with that theme that I mentioned earlier, and you guys have a wonderful night. Peace.